This is a duty I am especially happy to discharge, as the impact of the environment on human progress was a subject close to the heart.
King Charles's huge coronation day held a secret drama. A lip reader caught his very frustrated words, never meant for anyone to know. Later, shocking news about the king made these comments incredibly telling. Let's expose his hidden feelings and the massive pressures he secretly faced on that historic day. A day of destiny, a crown of ages. For 73 years, Charles waited. His whole life was a preparation for a job he was born to do, but had to wait a very long time for. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, had been the queen for 70 years, a steady rock and a symbol of doing her duty. When she passed away in September 2022, Charles finally became king. He was at an age when many people are thinking about retiring and taking it easy. His first days as king showed he was serious and ready. He spoke to the country with the sadness of a son who had lost his mother, but also with the strength of a king ready to lead. He named his son William, the new Prince of Wales, showing that the royal family had a clear plan for the future. For the very first time, the meeting where he officially became king, called the Accession Council, was shown on television. This was a big step, showing that this was a royal family for modern times. He met with leaders from all over the world, spoke to important groups in Germany and France, and even talked about the difficult parts of history when he visited Kenya in late 2023, expressing sorrow for past colonial-era violence. King Charles III was slowly showing the world what kind of king he would be, even as the shadow of his future health concerns was, unknowingly, beginning to lengthen. The coronation on May 6, 2023, was meant to be the most important, special moment to mark this new time. Westminster Abbey, the very old church where kings and queens have been crowned for almost 1,000 years, was decorated beautifully. Important people from every corner of the globe came to watch. The air in London, and indeed around the world, felt alive with excitement, a feeling of serious importance mixed with happiness. Britain and so many others watched as Charles and Queen Camilla got ready for the biggest public ceremony of their lives. Everyone expected the day to be perfect, a brilliant display of how strong and lasting the British monarchy is. The streets were filled with people, many waving flags, others holding up their phones to capture a piece of history. The sound of bells and distant bands could be heard, all adding to the feeling that something truly momentous was about to happen. Public support for the monarchy, while generally stable, showed generational divides even then, a subtle undercurrent to the day's celebrations, a point that analysts continue to discuss into 2025 as they reflect on the monarchy's evolving role. But under all the golden decorations and smiles, the huge pressure was there. You could almost feel it. The St. Edward's crown so heavy with history and jewels, the old symbols of power and responsibility that he would soon wear and hold, the eyes of billions of people watching his every move. It was a kind of pressure most people could never imagine. King Charles is known as a man who cares a lot about getting things right. He pays attention to small details and understands the deep history of his job. Reports said he was involved in planning many parts of the coronation. He knew this ceremony wasn't just for him. It was for the whole country and all the nations of the Commonwealth. He wanted it to be a bridge between the ancient past and the future he hoped to help shape, a future that, as we now know, would soon present him with profound personal battles. But what secret worries did he carry into the Abbey that day, and how might they have slipped out? More on that hidden side of the king later. The Lip Reader's Vigil, Catching the Unspoken. As King Charles and Queen Camilla arrived at Westminster Abbey, they were riding in the Diamond Jubilee State Coach. This coach itself is a work of art, glittering and grand, but they were a little bit late, not quite following the perfect schedule that had been planned down to the last second. And at that exact moment, with cameras from all over the world pointed at them, the lip readers were watching very, very closely. These are skilled people, experts hired by news companies who can understand what people are saying just by watching their lips move. It's a special skill, like decoding a secret message, offering a rare, unfiltered glimpse into moments the subjects believe are private. One of these experts was Jeremy Freeman. He had worked on many big events before, watching famous people and leaders. He noticed several things King Charles and Queen Camilla said to each other. But one set of words spoken by Charles with a clear look of frustration on his face really stood out to him. Imagine the scene. The king, about to enter the ancient abbey for this most sacred of ceremonies, is instead visibly annoyed. The weight of the world, and perhaps his own unvoiced anxieties, seemed to crystallize in that brief moment. According to Mr. Freeman, and other lip readers later agreed, as King Charles waited in the coach, clearly upset by being late and by what seemed like a bit of a muddle, he turned to Queen Camilla. The words he spoke, captured by the silent observers, were, "We can never be on time. Yes, This is a negative. There's always something. This is boring." Some lip readers also picked up on him seeming worried about his robes or how the order of service was supposed to go, saying things like, "I'm worried about," or showing he wasn't happy with how things were being organized. These weren't declarations for the history books, but rather the unvarnished expressions of a man under immense strain. When this news first came out, most people thought it was just a small thing. "He's just nervous, it's understandable," said one TV commentator. "It just shows the king is human like the rest of us," another one wrote. People saw it as a king having a moment of normal stress before a huge event. It was quickly forgotten as the amazing ceremony began. King Charles, after all, is a true professional. He quickly composed himself. He walked into Westminster Abbey and went through all the ancient parts of the coronation, the holy oil, the giving of the robes and symbols, the crowning itself, with all the calmness and dignity everyone expected from him. The king was crowned, his new role made official in the eyes of God and the world. The day was seen as a great success, a beautiful show that mixed old traditions with a little bit of King Charles's own style, although by May 2025, polls would indicate a public desire for future coronations to be perhaps smaller in scale, reflecting a changing perception of such grand events. The lip-read words seemed to disappear, just a tiny piece of forgotten news from a very big day. But history has a funny way of bringing things back, of making us look at old moments with new eyes. And those seemingly small words of frustration were destined to be remembered and re-examined. But why? What happened next that would cast them in such a different, more serious light, especially as the king himself would later speak in early May 2025 about the daunting and at times frightening experience of a cancer diagnosis? A royal shock. The news that changed everything. The world moved on from the glitter of the coronation. King Charles III settled into his new role, and the daily business of the monarchy continued, with the king undertaking significant duties, including that notable trip to Australia and Samoa in late 2024. A journey described as physically taxing even before the full extent of his health challenges became public. Then, in January 2024, nearly 8 months after he was crowned, Buckingham Palace made an announcement that sent a ripple of concern across the nation and the globe. The king was going to have a corrective procedure, a type of planned operation for an enlarged prostate. The palace said it was a common condition for men his age and that he would continue with some of his duties. But this was just the beginning of a more serious story. In February 2024, a second announcement came, and this one was far more shocking. During his hospital stay for the prostate treatment, doctors had found something else, a different problem. Tests were done, and they showed that the king had a form of cancer, though the palace later clarified it was not prostate cancer. The man who had only just started his most important job, the king who had waited his whole life for this moment, was now facing a serious fight for his health. The news stunned everyone. It was a stark reminder that even kings are human and can face terrible illnesses. His treatment was confirmed before Christmas 2024 to be continuing into the new year, 2025, with palace sources indicating it was moving in a positive direction. His public appearances were suddenly reduced. He had to step back from many of his duties for about 3 months to focus on his treatment and recovery, resuming forward-facing duties in late April 2024. Queen Camilla, showing incredible strength and quiet calmness, stepped up. She took on more work, attending events and representing the crown, all while supporting her husband. Her own public favorability, while still a complex subject, with around 37% holding a positive view in April 2025, has seen some improvement as people witness her steadfastness. Prince William also had to balance his own family worries, as his wife, the Princess of Wales, was also recovering from her own surgery and subsequent cancer diagnosis and treatment, from which she confirmed she was in remission in January 2025, with his duties as the Prince of Wales and a son supporting his father. The king, though he kept working on official papers and important state business from behind the scenes, was clearly affected by his treatments when he was seen in public. He sometimes looked tired, and his strength seemed less than before. Yet everyone said his spirit was still strong, and he was determined to get better. This resolve was evident when he was briefly hospitalized again on March 27, 2025, for observation after experiencing temporary side effects from a scheduled treatment, only to be seen waving to well-wishers in London the following day. It was during this difficult time, with the king's health now a major public concern, that those words he spoke on Coronation Day, the ones caught by the lip readers, started to be talked about again. They weren't just a bit of gossip anymore. People began to see them in a new, much more serious way. Royal experts and people who follow the royal family closely started to think, did those words about being late, about things always going wrong, about being bored, actually show something deeper? Were they a sign of a man already feeling incredibly tired and weighed down by the huge, never-ending demands of being king even before he knew he was ill? The idea that these weren't just throwaway comments, but perhaps a window into his true feelings, began to take hold. And this is where the story of that whisper becomes so much more than just a passing moment of royal frustration, especially as some royal commentators noted by May 2025 that his reign 2 years in was shaping up as eventful and oddly unchanging in its core narrative. That of a beleaguered father managing a messy brood, hinting at ongoing family strains as well. The weight of always something, a deeper look at the king's words. Let's look again at what King Charles said. We can never be on time. This is a negative. There's always something. This is boring. When first reported, each phrase was perhaps easy to dismiss. But now, knowing what came after, the cancer diagnosis, the scaling back of duties, the visible toll of treatment, and his own recent acknowledgments in May 2025 of the greatest compassion that can illuminate the darkest moments of illness, these words feel heavier, like they carry a hidden story. Consider, we can never be on time. On the surface, it's about the coronation procession running late. But could it also reflect a deeper frustration? Charles had waited 73 years to become king. He is known for wanting to make a difference, for having strong ideas about the environment, architecture, and helping young people. Perhaps this comment hinted at a feeling that the ancient, sometimes slow-moving machinery of the monarchy itself could be frustrating for a man eager to make his mark. Was he already sensing that the path ahead would be filled with delays and obstacles, not just on that day, but in his reign? The weight of expectation for everything to be perfect, contrasted with the messy reality of any large event, could have been a source of immense stress. Then, this is a negative. Again, a simple statement of displeasure. But in the context of a king whose every public moment is scrutinized for its symbolism, acknowledging a negative right before the most positive affirmation of his role is striking. It suggests a man who is acutely aware of imperfections, perhaps even hyper-aware. For someone who had meticulously planned many aspects of this service, any deviation would have been jarring. But was it just about that moment? Or did it hint at a more pervasive feeling of things not being quite right, a shadow of worry that he carried with him, a worry that perhaps stemmed from an intuitive sense of the challenges that lay ahead, both personal and institutional. The phrase, "there's always something," is perhaps the most telling, especially now. It sounds like a sigh of resignation, the words of someone who feels constantly beset by problems, big or small. For King Charles, this has certainly been true. His life has been filled with somethings: the long wait for the throne, the intense public interest in his personal life and marriages, the challenges of taking over from a queen as beloved as Elizabeth II, managing ongoing family rifts that some experts in early 2025 warned could be damaging to his reign, if not healed, and then the sudden and serious battle with cancer. It's as if on his coronation day, a day meant to be about ultimate triumph and order, he was already feeling the familiar weight of always something pressing down on him. This specific phrase now echoes with an almost prophetic quality, hinting at the trials that were still unseen, but perhaps already taking a toll on his reserves. And what about "this is boring"? This was the comment that perhaps shocked people the most at the time. How could the crowning of a king be boring to the king himself? Some thought it was a misinterpretation, or perhaps a very dry British kind of joke. But if we consider boring not as a lack of interest in the sacred ritual itself, but as a weariness with the endless performance, the rigid formality, the sheer exhaustion of being the constant center of attention, then it takes on a different meaning. Could it have been a moment of profound fatigue, a deep sigh from a man who had been in the public eye his entire life, preparing for this role, and now, at the pinnacle, felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of its relentless, repetitive demands? The kind of boredom that comes not from lack of stimulation, but from an overabundance of it, a desire for quiet, for normalcy, in a life that allows for very little of either. The human side of the king, craving a moment's peace amidst the grandeur, might have been peeking through. But what did those closest to him, especially his queen and his heir, make of these subtle signs? Their reactions, both then and now, are a crucial part of this unfolding story, and we will explore that more fully, considering recent reports suggesting Charles has urged William not to repeat his own mistakes regarding the balance of duty and family life. A son's perspective, a future king's understanding. For Prince William, the Prince of Wales, his father's words, when viewed through the sad lens of his later illness, must have resonated with a special kind of sadness and understanding. Text 1, that dramatic earlier account, painted a picture of Prince William supposedly having an emotional crisis over a final wish from his father about Princess Catherine's future. While that story was about a possible future, the re-look at the Coronation Day comments is about a real moment from the past that now informs the present, a present where William himself has been increasingly visible, recently attending the FA Cup final in May 2025 as patron of the FA and preparing for a trip to Scotland with Princess Kate. Prince William, who has often spoken about wanting to make the monarchy more modern and trying to find a balance between his royal duties and his family life, watched his father for many, many years. He saw Charles work hard to create a useful and important role as Prince of Wales. Charles often faced public criticism, and sometimes people even made fun of him for his strong beliefs about things like protecting the environment or supporting organic farming, ideas that are now much more mainstream. To see his father, now finally king, show such clear frustration even on a day that should have been his greatest moment of success, and then to watch him bravely fight his illness, would surely give William a deeper understanding of the personal costs and sacrifices that come with wearing the crown. Indeed, reports in early 2025 suggested King Charles had emotionally appealed to William, advising him to enjoy your family life and not make the same mistakes he felt he had made by being so dedicated to duty that he couldn't make way for family as he should have. This counsel, born from the king's own reflections, likely carries immense weight for William. The confirmation from the lip reader isn't about uncovering a huge state secret. Instead, it's like an emotional truth being highlighted. It confirms that behind the calm and dignified appearance that royals are expected to show, the king, just like any other person, feels moments of intense stress, frustration, and maybe even a feeling of being swamped by the huge, never-ending show and demands of his job. For Prince William, this is a powerful reminder of how heavy the crown can be, the crown he himself will wear one day. The idea that the royal family always moves forward smoothly and perfectly, an idea so important to the monarchy's special image, is shown to be something that takes a lot of personal effort and can cause hidden strain. Did King Charles, on that coronation morning, somehow know what challenges were coming his way? It's not likely he had a crystal ball, but his words, "There's always something," now seem almost like a prophecy. And indeed, for King Charles, there has always been something. The very long wait to be king, the difficult parts of his personal life being discussed by everyone in public, the big job of leading the monarchy after his mother's incredibly long and respected reign, the ongoing and publicized rifts with his younger son Prince Harry, which some commentators in May 2025 still see as damaging to his reign, and now his own serious health battle. The feeling of always something seems to be a key part of what it means to carry the crown. And for Prince William, witnessing this firsthand in his father must be a sobering lesson as he prepares for his own destiny, a destiny he now approaches with the added perspective of his father's candid advice. How this shapes his own future reign is a question many are pondering, and we'll touch upon that again. Queen Camilla, a pillar of strength and understanding. Queen Camilla stood right beside King Charles in the coach when he spoke those frustrated words. She was the one who heard his quiet complaints directly. Her journey to becoming queen has been truly remarkable. Once seen as a controversial figure by some, she has grown to become a vital source of support for the king and a highly respected senior member of the royal family. Her own calm and dignified behavior on Coronation Day, even as her husband was clearly feeling anxious, showed her own journey of strength and resilience. Public perception of her has gradually shifted, with polls in early 2025 showing a slow but steady increase in positive views, a testament to her quiet devotion to duty and her husband, especially evident throughout his illness. The lip reader's confirmation of what King Charles said gives us a small look into the private relationship between the king and queen. It's very likely that Camilla, more than anyone else, truly understood the immense pressures her husband was under that day. She had seen him wait for decades, watched his careful preparation for becoming king, and knew his deep desire to serve his country. His moments of frustration probably weren't a surprise to her. Instead, they were likely just one part of the complex real man she married and has supported for so many years. Her own experience with intense public scrutiny, as she herself admitted in a past interview, was incredibly difficult, making her uniquely positioned to understand the pressures Charles faced. Her unwavering strength and support for him, especially since he became ill, has been clear for all to see. She has taken on a very busy schedule of public duties, always with a warm smile and a sense of calm, showing her key role in the monarchy. If the king's words on Coronation Day hinted at a hidden weight he was carrying, Queen Camilla's actions since then have shown a shared strength and partnership. In many ways, she has become the human face of the monarchy's ability to endure tough times, a quiet and steady force beside King Charles as he voiced his worries. Her understanding of his brief boredom or irritation would probably not have been one of criticism, but of deep empathy for the incredibly unique and often lonely position he holds. She knew the path to this day had been long and arduous for him, and her role was, and continues to be, one of steadfast support. This partnership is perhaps one of the most significant, yet often overlooked aspects of the modern monarchy, a theme we may return to, especially as they navigate the ongoing challenges of his health together. The unseen burdens, what the whisper confirms. What the lip reader's findings really confirm when we look back with the knowledge of all that has happened since, including the King's recent poignant remarks in May 2025 about his cancer journey bringing the best of humanity into focus, is the huge, often unseen, weight of expectation that sits on the shoulders of a monarch. Every time King Charles steps out in public, it's like a performance. Every word he says, every gesture he makes is watched and analyzed by millions. The pressure to be perfect, to never make a mistake, is constant and intense. King Charles, known as a man who thinks deeply and feels things strongly, is understood to feel this pressure very much. His strong desire for things to be done correctly, his passion for the causes he believes in, and his deep commitment to his duty have been written about many times. Those seemingly small complaints about timing or the way things were organized on Coronation Day can now be seen as little cracks in the carefully maintained royal calmness. Through these cracks, we get a glimpse of the real human being wearing the crown. It's a confirmation that kings and queens, even with all their symbolic power and historical importance, are not safe from the everyday feelings of frustration and stress that affect everyone. The difference is that their frustrations are played out on a massive public stage, where every tiny detail can affect how people see them and the monarchy itself. This revelation, if we can call it that, doesn't make the king seem weaker. In fact, for many, it makes him seem more human, more relatable. In today's world, where people are often skeptical of big institutions, moments like this, where a leader shows a relatable human side, can actually create a different, perhaps stronger kind of connection between the monarch and the people. Indeed, his openness about his cancer diagnosis, though limited in detail, has been seen by some as an attempt to connect with the shared experiences of others facing similar health battles. It helps us understand that the job of being king isn't just about attending ceremonies and wearing fancy robes. It's a very deep psychological and emotional task, one that requires enormous personal strength and resilience. Knowing about his illness, which he faced so soon after the coronation, adds another important layer to this understanding. Is it possible that his feelings of frustration on that day were made worse by an underlying physical problem, something he didn't even know about yet? We can't say for sure, but the story of a king already feeling the strain of his huge new responsibilities and then soon after having to face a serious health crisis is a very powerful and moving one. It changes how we look at the early part of his reign, making his initial burst of activity and his later necessary slowdown seem even more significant. The king's journey, it seems, was already one of hidden battles even on his most public of days. Battles he now fights with a courage that has been widely acknowledged. A nation's gaze, a monarchy's future. The words King Charles spoke in the coach on Coronation Day, now given new weight by his health struggles, don't automatically change the official rules or the constitutional role of the monarchy. That system has been in place for centuries. However, these insights do contribute to a small but important shift in public perception. He is seen not just as a distant symbol of power, but as a man dealing with extraordinary pressures, showing courage, and also, at times, showing understandable human strain. Public favorability for King Charles, according to a YouGov poll in May 2025, stood at 61%, a solid figure, though with a noticeable drop among younger demographics, highlighting the ongoing challenge of engaging all generations. This humanizing effect can be complicated. While it can make people feel more empathy and connection, it can also lead to even more intense watching and guessing about his every move. The special mystique of the monarchy, which partly depends on an image of almost superhuman strength and perfect composure, is naturally changed a bit when the human vulnerabilities of the king are so clearly visible. Furthermore, discussions around the cost and scale of royal events continue, with a poll in May 2025 showing that 44% of Britons would prefer a smaller-scale coronation for the next monarch, suggesting a public appetite for a more modern, perhaps less extravagant, approach. For the rest of the royal family, especially for the Prince and Princess of Wales, these understandings of King Charles's experience will surely influence how they think about their own future roles. Prince William has already signaled a desire for a more focused way of doing royal duties, perhaps not trying to do as many things as in the past. The confirmation of his father's clear stress, even on a day that should have been filled only with joy and triumph, and the king's reported advice to prioritize family might make William even more determined to protect his own family from some of the toughest parts of the royal system. It might also strengthen his desire to redefine what it means to be king for a new generation, perhaps finding a way to balance the ancient duties with the needs of a modern family man. The echoes of his father's quiet frustrations may well guide his hand in years to come, especially as he and Princess Kate are reportedly set to take on responsibilities like issuing royal warrants, a significant mark of their growing roles. The public's reaction to this new look at the King's Coronation Day words has generally been one of sympathy. In our current age, with social media everywhere, every small detail of public figures' lives is often picked apart. The understanding that the king felt such pressure, and even voiced it in a private moment, has connected with many people. It's a reminder that leadership, no matter what form it takes, always comes with a personal cost and hidden struggles. The phrase, "this is boring," if we understand it not as a literal dismissal of the important ceremony, but as a sign of deep tiredness with the endless, repetitive demands and strict rules of royal life, becomes particularly revealing. It hints at a possible inner struggle, the strong desire to serve his country versus the sheer exhaustion that can come from constantly being on show. It's a feeling that many people who have held very responsible jobs, even on a much smaller scale, might privately understand and empathize with. The king's journey is unique, yet touches on universal human experiences of pressure and fatigue, experiences he has now acknowledged more openly through his reflections on his cancer journey. What do these private royal moments truly reveal? How might they shape the monarchy's future? If you found this insightful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below.